So today I wanted to talk about a subject that has been in my mind for a couple of, actually, months, I think. And it's because something that I also care about, and it's our responsibility towards beauty. So I wanted to maybe share with you some thoughts about the subject, and I hope that you'll be interested. So, beauty. So you all know, maybe, I mean, you all know, but maybe you heard about this guy, Dostoevsky. He's known for this quote, especially. He says that beauty will save the world. And so, what does that mean? So maybe we'll know at the end of the lecture. So, bear with me. All right. So this is actually a picture of space, and in this infinite environment, a long, long time ago, because of a really random event, our planet Earth was born. And with even more luck, in this tiny little planet, life appeared. And after many, many years, we can see this. Oh,
No, you just press
next. Didn't work? All right. So this is a Victoria's rufflebird. I think you can find it in Australia. So when you, after you saw that video, I wonder what came into your mind. What did you feel? Maybe it was just, it's just a bird trying to seduce a female bird in order to reproduce his species. What's the big deal? And of course it's true, but I bet most of you sense something a bit special. Maybe a sense of wonder. Maybe you were amazed or touched by its beauty, right? And so that kind of makes us feel that there's something more in this life, something greater. Maybe you recognize this movie? Have you ever thought that maybe the universe didn't have to be beautiful? It could have been maybe a completely functional one, composed with neutral elements, undifferentiated from each other, maintaining life robotically. I bet just like a life support machine. You know, like a robot doesn't need to be pretty in order to function. And it's true that when you look, the great question of truth, goodness, and beauty, maybe beauty seems a bit superficial, or like a bonus to have, not really essential to our life. But when you look at these guys, we're like, oh, we're so attracted to them, right? And we're naturally attracted to beauty. And it's not just because of it's not like a tool for our own survival, which is maybe a bit true, but it's not just that, right? When we see those guys, we identify ourselves with them, and we identify with the world that is around us. We sort of are projecting ourselves with this. It creates, we develop feelings. When we look at these animals, we're like, oh, this is me, I can relate. So we get inspired. We feel we really feel this need to express ourselves, to tell stories, to create, invent, and shape the world in our image. This is Felix. And we did that such a very long, long time ago. These paintings are almost like 21,000 years old, and they're amazing. So since the very beginning of us being human, certainly we had this sort of need to paint stuff on the wall, So this, the person you see here, his name is François Cheng. He's a Chinese and French writer and poet. And he wrote about beauty, and he really inspired me for this sermon, actually. He converted himself in Christianity when he was young, and so he has a bit of this understanding of Eastern philosophy and Western philosophy, which makes him really aligned with our teaching, I think. So he's a bit of an able type figure. of an intellectual, as you may say. So this is what he says. Man is made to be at the beating heart at the center of the universe, not to be uprooted, staring at the universe from the outside. If we're capable of thinking about the universe, it is because the universe thinks within us. One way to understand it or to illustrate this is a bit when you look at Eastern paintings, or in Europe in the 19th century, this is what is called the Romantic period. And one of the characteristics of those paintings is that the landscapes reflects the inner self of the individual. So here you can feel maybe the inner peace of those two women looking at the water plants, or the grave and intense thoughts of this German guy in front of the water. So still with our friend Francois Cheng, when he talks about the planet, he says, the planet is a mold, a speck of dust in the universe, which has managed to produce emotions, imagination, in a word, spirit, and which strive towards beauty. From the very beginning, matter contained the promise of beauty, the capacity of beauty. I think it's really interesting. So this is not such an uplifting illustration, right? We don't really like feeling, or like imagine you're being part of a society, or you're in your work or in your company, and you don't really like this feeling that each person is seen as a tool that can be changed or replaced, without caring how one's feel about it. We will feel trapped, and we will suffer from this incapacity to accomplish ourselves fully, to show the world our deep, unique potential. And this is because it goes completely against some important life principles. And still my friend, Francois Chen, and our little cute guy here. So for life to exist, different elements must come together. As they grow more complex, they form each unique being. This he called it presence. This is how the incredible journey of life created every blade of grace, every insect, and each of us, each one special and irreplaceable. Even you, Felix. It is through the connection of all these beings that beauty becomes possible. In the early Christian church father, actually, especially it's true in the Eastern Orthodox and the Catholic tradition, this illustrate this notion with the definition of beauty being beauty, the unity of the singular and the whole. Or maybe this German musician Mendelssohn. The essence of beauty is in unity. The essence of beauty is unity in variety. So one way to understand like this is that we have we can have one note of music, or one color, or maybe even a word, like a mantra. You can just think of a word, of a sound, of his phrase, and repeat it over and over again. And so every color, words, notes of music have their own own characteristics, value. But it's only when they interact with each other that they can fulfill their own essence and make life more stimulating. So words become sentences, colors becomes a palette, and notes a melody. So this is actually a real painting, by the way. It's the famous Yves Klein blue color. Mozart put it in a really cute way, I think. I choose such notes that love one another.
That's cute.
And this is a French painter that I really like, Jean-Édouard Vuillard. So Vuillard says, a form or a color exists only in relation to another. Form does not exist on its own. We can only conceive of the relations. So this is one of his paintings. I hope you can see well, but I hope you can enjoy as much as I do, like how the pink, the red, and the green, and all those colors are really like dancing together. I think it's such a lovely painting. But of course, we're talking about art. But beauty is not just about art; it can also be about sport. Allez les bleus. Beautiful shot, right? So beauty is not a simple evolutionary trick or a social construct. Even though, of course, there's truth in it, but I think it's more important than that. Beauty is at the core of harmonious relationships. That is why beauty can only emerge through relationships and interactions. Like those two guys. Which kind of aligns with the Divine Principle vision of beauty, actually. So now it's the Mooney nerd moment. According to the Divine Principle, love is the emotional force given by the subject to the object, and beauty, the emotional force returned to the subject by the object. And let's get even more nerdy and talk about the unification thought. So the unification thought adds something more into this definition. It says, some element existing in the object gives the subject an emotional stimulation that is felt by the subject as beauty. Then, what is this element that stimulates the subject emotionally? In other words, what is the element of beauty? This is the Jacques Marion moment. It is the combination of the purpose for which the object was created, so the purpose of creation, and the harmony of the physical element within the object. That is to say, when the physical elements, such as lines, shapes, sounds, colors, space, are well harmonized, centering on the purpose of creation, they give to the subject an emotional stimulation that is felt as beauty. So now you know how to, when you date a girl, you can say, oh, your physical elements are in harmony and they're perfect aligned with the purpose of creation. In French. All right, but I think all of this sounds great, but maybe it's a bit too theoretical. So I will try to yeah. Felix is noting this harmony, physical. Get ready, Nina. All right. So all of this maybe can sound a bit theoretical or theological. So I'm going to try to explain all of this that we talk with a very, I hope, clear example. So this, maybe you recognize this character from a Disney movie. And I, as the subject, very excited when I see this. I think it's very beautiful. This is my object partner. And there's a reason why I'm very excited about this drawing, of course. It has its own, characteristics, For me, when I see this, it's a great line of action. Very good variety of proportions, nice volumes, very appealing design, and a very clear silhouette. So all of this has very, elements that are in harmony for me. And they all serve the purpose of this drawing, which is to tell a story. And how does that drawing tell a story? Well, it's part of it's alive! This drawing is part of a sequence of frame, and each frame has its own, characteristic. But what is beautiful is that one frame is in response of the frame that is before and the frame that is after. So of course, they're in perfect coherence. It's a bit like a note of music in a composition, right? And so it will be strange if suddenly in this frame he had a hat, even though it will be a very beautiful drawing, but that hat will be out of nowhere. I'm like, that's what. So it wouldn't really serve the purpose of the whole. Does that make sense? And this is what we call the illusion of life, animation. So, and then in the broader sense, this animation frame serve a higher purpose, which is the animation sequence. And this animation sequence will serve the scene, and the scene will serve the movie, and the movie will serve maybe the direction vision, and all of this will serve the great purpose of making a movie, which is to give joy. So that's why beauty is the unity of the singular and the whole. You see what I mean? So each of them are very specific, but all together they create something beautiful, which is, in that case, a beautiful animation movie. All right. So maybe if you're really, DP nerds, you would have noticed that when I showed the subject and object relationship, I forgot something. So we talked about, the idea that beauty is, related with love. So of course the question is, what our love is centered on? Because beauty, as we understand, has such a powerful force of attraction, and unfortunately, it can easily be perverted or corrupt. That is why even certain religions, like Puritan, the Puritans, or some Buddhist church, philosophies, they kind of like have a strong critics over, especially external beauty, because they see it as a capacity of corruption. But what we understand that the need for external beauty and internal beauty are as fundamental. They're fundamental for the need for us to grow, right? So this is a bit of an example of, I'll say, corrupted beauty. So in the world of art, I think it is true that liberating ourselves from the heaviness or maybe the rigidity of sacred and religious art had its goods, and it was probably necessary. But a big part of the art has fallen into nihilism, a rejection of the meaning of life, absence of objective truth, goodness, and beauty. So you can actually see how much this is worth on the top. So this stick here is worth $60,000. So you know how to make money for the church. So the result is an art that relies mostly on provocation, for the sake of provocation, functionality over beauty, and a creation that cares more about the purpose of the individual than the whole. So, someone is like, yeah, I want my green, ugly thing in the middle of Paris. I'm like, okay. So this is a good example of nihilism. Maybe you heard about this. So this is an Italian artist that put a banana, scotch into the wall, and say, that worth $120,000. And someone actually bought this in order to eat it as an art piece. Yeah, exactly. It's really new, right? Yeah. So when we come back with, what we call the three transcendentals, is we have to ask ourselves, is it true? Is it good? And is it beautiful? And I think one good way to maybe not fall into nihilism is maybe to look at the Chinese character of beauty, which is Mei, beauty, and it's composed with two characters actually. So on top there is Yang, which means sheep, and bottom there is Ta, so big sheep. So beautiful in Chinese is big sheep. It sounds a bit funny like this, but the thing is, in ancient Chinese culture, sheep were associated with beauty, goodness, and prosperity. This association likely came from the fact that sheep were valuable livestock, providing wool, milk, and food, so they represented something pure and beneficial. So there's this idea that the creation is not just beautiful, but it also does good, brings good fortune. And it's interesting because in the Bible, in Genesis, what do we read? And God saw everything that he made, and behold, it was very good. So he didn't say, oh my God, I'm so smart. Or, wow, it is very beautiful. It's like, no, it's very good. And in Divine Principle, we have a clear understanding of what good means. Good is, so we say an act or the result of an act is considered good when it fulfills God's purpose of creation. This takes place when a subject partner and an object partner unite through the harmonious and spirited give and take of love and beauty, become the third object partner to God, and form the four-position foundation, which you all know by heart, of course. So we need to center our action on God, which is the source of true goodness and beauty. And I think, out of many art that I think is aligned with this thinking, I think, is this statue from Auguste Rodin, which is called La Cathédrale, which means the cathedral. Just in case you haven't. So in the sculpture, you see the hand of a man and the hand of a woman touching each other very delicately. And the title is The Cathedral, which I think shows in such a very beautiful way that the core of God's temple resides in the love between a man and a woman. So, truth, goodness, beauty, here all aligned, I think. This is a Irish Catholic Dominican, Father Vincent MacNab. Beauty is the radiance of truth and the fragrances of goodness. All right, so I think to conclude, we have to understand that our attitude towards life is important. Let's not just do art for the sake of art, without ethical consideration. The greatest artists draw their inspiration from nature and their human experiences. They cannot banish the implication of their consciousness and the sense of their responsibility towards all of humanity and the living universe. What we create matters. What we do matters. There is a clear sort of impact in our life. There's some also social studies that kind of demonstrate that depending on where you live, if you live in a beautiful, nice place, or in a very creepy, ugly one, the relationship that you will have with life, society, and a whole, it will be completely different. It's a bit like when someone gives you a white paper where there's no drawing, nothing, it's like completely new. You're a bit more afraid of drawing something into it. But if someone gives you something that's like a lot of drawings and it's half broken, you don't care if you draw something into it, right? But so I know we talked a lot about we need to live a life centered on God, but so sometimes it could be a bit like, okay, what does it mean? I think. So I think personally, a good way to live aligned with God, or what you can maybe call a higher good, is there's a German philosopher called Friedrich Hölderlin, I think it's Hölderlin. Yes, which invite us to live or inhabit the world politically. So a bit like children, let us pay attention to the every moment of beauty that life offers. A smile, a little frog on the water, a funny looking cloud. Let us nourish ourselves from it, and let us be amazed by the beauty of life. And I think this is what also Jesus was saying when he was telling, I tell you the truth, unless you change and become like little children, you'll never enter the kingdom of heaven. Which François Cheng adds, we must save the beauty offered to us, and we will be saved along with them. Very cute, I think. All right, so we're going back to space one. So beauty will save the world. It's funny because when I was preparing this sermon, I was like looking online, and I came to this forum that maybe some of you know, Reddit. And it's funny how in internet you can find such clear picture of truth in a very obscure comment. So this is why Minglewood Lost says to us, beauty brings us face to face with the sacred, forcing us to recognize the divine within ourselves. It inspires hope and flows from love. Beauty is the universal desire for a better world. Beauty really ties the room together. So thank you very much, and let's pray.